Hello and welcome to our program, People, Politics and Power. I am Imonia Marire. The call for restructuring evolved from a series of agitations arising from the national question, minority rights, resource control, and the legitimacy of the 1999 Constitution. Restructuring has become the latest buzzword in the political lexicon in Nigeria, with political and non-political actors pushing their ideas of a concept which not too long ago was disliked by many state actors. But now, the likes of former military president Ibrahim Babangida, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, former Central Bank Governor and now Emir of Kano, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, as well as other political actors, have articulated salient reasons for restructuring and devolution of powers, which according to them will help to reposition the country and generate new ideas and initiatives that would make the union of the different regions worthwhile. To this effect, on Thursday, June 29, 2017, the matter of restructuring Nigeria was tabled at a meeting of the leadership and governors of the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC. And at the end of the meeting, which took place at the Imo State Governor's Lodge in Asokoro, Abuja, a committee was set up to look into the many calls to restructure Nigeria. The committee was led by the Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai and took the matter of true federalism to various states across the federation, seeking to know what the people really wanted. After long consultations and deliberations on their findings, the committee submitted its report to the leadership of the party on Thursday, January 25, 2018, for further action by the party. The committee recommended that power be devolved to states. It also recommended that 10 items be moved from the 68 items on the exclusive legislative list to the concurrent list. Some of the items include police and prisons, registration of business names, labor, oil fields, and geographical survey, amongst others. It gave a nod to state creation and mergers, independent candidacy, and of course it rejected local government autonomy. Now let's take a listen to a report on the committee's recommendations.
The clamor for the restructuring of Nigeria dominated the political space, and it became imperative for the ruling party to obey its own constitution in respect of the issue, particularly that it was seen as the answer to various challenges in Nigeria. It was indeed one of the campaign promises of the ruling party in the build-up to the 2015 general election. On assumption of office, the APC became hesitant on the issue of restructuring. However, the party yielded to popular opinion and resolved to go the way of restructuring. It therefore set up a 27-member committee. The committee came up with recommendations that could put the elements of restructuring in the right perspective. They include the concession of the control of mineral resources such as oil and gas onshore to state governments, the creation of state police, and the revision of revenue sharing to favor state governments.
The fifth item, sir, is mines and minerals, including oil fields, oil mining, geological surveys, and natural gas. This should be moved to the concurrent list. Mr. Chairman, this is a major recommendation because if this amendment that we are proposing is passed, it means that all minerals, including oil and gas, that are onshore will be vested in the states of the Federation.
The committee had engaged 8,004 individuals throughout the Federation. Some of the information received formed part of its recommendation. They are the inclusion of exclusive lists, which should also be concurrent. Also to be on concurrent lists are food, drugs and narcotics, fingerprint, and identification of criminal records and prison services.
We believe that if these amendments are passed by the National Assembly, they will significantly rebalance our federation, devolve more powers to the states, reduce the burden of the federal government, and make our country work better.
Receiving the report, National Chairman of APC, John Odigeyegu, said the report will lay a good foundation for one of the cardinal commitments of the party.
A few months back, before August, we had all sorts of experts, not just pontificating, but grandstanding on the issue of true federalism, on the issue of restructuring, the issue of resource control, to the extent that they started giving the impression that this was something the party could just flip a switch and hit president Nigeria is different, restructured, reformed.
The recommendations are expected to be sent to the National Assembly.
Here's report there on the committee's report on true federalism. Now, on People, Politics and Power today, we shall take a look at the recommendations of the committee and the prospects for their implementation. I have joining me in the studio a member of Nigeria's House of Representatives, Amadu Kanike, from Kwara State. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. The name is Amuda Konike.
Amuda
Konike.
Konike.
Thank you.
All right, Amuda Konike. Now, also joining us is the National Publicity Secretary of the ruling All Progressives Congress, Malam Bolaji Abdullahi. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Okay, now, some months back, 16 southern governors met in Lagos State to discuss issues bordering on the socio-political development of the South, and, of course, restructuring was not left out. At that meeting, the governors deliberated on the need for true federalism, but promised to keep Nigeria as one united, indivisible entity. And then, of course, northern leaders also met in Kaduna, where they brainstormed on many national issues, including restructuring and what the interest of the North would be in that circumstance. Let's take a report on that.
Northern Nigeria is not afraid of restructuring. What we believe in is that we must engage our people, hear their views, aggregate their views, and then respect process and procedure. Simple, and that's what we are doing. And we cannot be stampeded into going into what we don't actually prepared for.
For in the midst of this debate, there are calls for using the reports of the 2006 and 2014 so-called national conferences. How can we forget that these are conferences designed to achieve predetermined results that exclusively serve the personal ambition of one individual and his cabal?
The problem is with the leadership. It's not with the structure of Nigeria.
That what is important, side by side with the restructuring debate, is to look at the very negative statistics that the North currently parades, particularly in the area of poverty, education, and healthcare. Of course, Dr. Bukaje has alluded to this by stating the huge number of our youths that are out of school. It is his belief that we all as leaders must concentrate on reversing this very negative and ugly sets of statistics.
We are better united. We are stronger
united. We are more prosperous united than being divided.
Whatever restructuring that is going to be made, let it be known that all forms of worship, whether Islamic or Christian worship, must be respected and must be given a place.
Nigeria of our dream, the Nigeria we need, is the united, indissoluble, and cohesive Nigeria which guarantees equity, fairness, justice, and prosperity for its citizens. That is our focus on people, politics, and power. It is fresh, insightful, impactful. It's a must-watch. People, politics, and power on AIT. Join us to build bridges of unity.
Well, as expected, since the release of that report by the El-Rufai Committee, or the submission of that report by the El-Rufai Committee, it has generated mixed reactions from politicians and non-politicians alike in the Nigerian political space. Now, we'll be looking at some of those reactions in the course of our discussion. And of course, here in the studio, we have Malam Abdullahi and, of course, an honorable member of the House of Representatives, Amuda Kanike Abubakar, who's also joined us. We'll be looking at all of this. Gentlemen, thank you so much for finding time to join us.
Thank you for inviting us.
Well, first is that, Malam Abdullahi, is that many think that it took quite some time, from July last year, when that committee was set up, till January, for it to put together a report that is eventually submitted last Thursday. That's about 5 or 6 months or so. And many thought that since this was an issue that was properly articulated in the manifesto of the APC, it ought not to have taken that long to come up with a position as they have done now.
No, that's not exactly correct. I mean, in terms of how long it took, yes, you are right. But if you recall the background to this conversation last year, yes, the issue of restructuring is aptly captured in our manifesto. But you will recall that the dimension it took last year was such that suddenly restructuring assumed an imprecise interpretation, and everyone was giving it its own interpretation, maybe naturally so, you know. And there are some people whose definition of restructuring even includes dismemberment of Nigeria. There are those others whose definition of restructuring includes redrawing the map of Nigeria, and the kind of maps were actually flying around the country at the time, if you recall. So we felt that, yes, we had these embedded in our manifesto, but it's important for us to aggregate the opinion of Nigerians. You will say that, yes, there are past constitutional conferences whose reports we could easily have adopted and used for the purpose that we wanted to serve. But again, these kind of conversations have always taken place at the elite level. So we felt we needed to go out, and from thereupon, upon our inauguration, we went around the country, 2 meetings in each geopolitical zones. And we had a total of close to 8,000 people attending all of those meetings put together. So what you have in this report that we submitted is an aggregate conclusion of the opinion, the views that capture the aspiration of Nigerians across the length and breadth of this country on what their definition of restructuring would be. Do you understand what I'm saying? So for us in APC, our understanding, our conceptualization is that we will pursue the agenda of true federalism in order to improve governance across Nigeria. That's the way it was framed in our constitution. Now, what it entails, what it means to every Nigerian will require for us to listen to Nigerians and bring them on board. And this is what we have. So we are very confident that the report we submitted reflects the opinion of Nigerians across the length and breadth of this country.
Now, Honorable Abubakar, let's look at the figures now. A little over 8,000 people said to have be consulted or made inputs into this report. I mean, I know that the membership of the APC as a political party alone is well over 20 million or thereabout. And here you have 8,000 or a little over 8,000 people making inputs into this. Does that look representative enough?
Yeah,
of the views of members of the party, if it's only members of the party we're talking about now?
Thank you very much. I think it is representative because if you look at the way parties are structured, by the time you are selecting people within the party that are airing the opinion of, they don't air personal opinions in most instances. They're airing opinions of probably, people who are constituent to what designation they are holding. So when you see 8,000, when you look at it, a lot of those people are probably ward chairmen, people who have conducted consultation at lower levels, that have had more robust background, collection of opinions. So by the time they're articulating the opinion and captured in the statistics, they are not just 8,000. Inferentially, it is the opinion of several, constituents that are now, being reflected. And I'll cite a specific example. We are 360. And we still, in the House of Representatives, yes. And we still make law for this country. So essentially, you cannot look at the number and say that is, statistically, but because we are representing people, often than not, we go and consult. That's what every rep should do. So by the time you're airing an opinion, it is a reflection of what the people that pushed you forward, are thinking about. So I think it is a good number in a structured party, system. It is a very good number, and I think the statistics is reflective of the general opinion of the people.
Mala Abdullahi, let's take out some of the peripheral issues before we go to the main recommendations. One of which is, the critics are saying, that it has taken the APC almost 3 years to come up with these recommendations by its committee. Just 1 year or a little over 1 year shy of the end of his tenure. And they are beginning to read political motives to this thing. Is there any nexus?
We're a political party, even including restructuring in our manifesto as a way of attracting people to our party is political. So we have political motives. You get what I'm saying? But the significant thing at the end of the day is whether we are committed to the promise we made to Nigerians, which we are. And that promise is to improve the way governance is done in this country by restructuring the governance system itself. That is the commitment. I don't think there's a deadline to this. Many of the issues that are being brought forward here have dominated political conversations in this country in the last 50 years or even more. We've not found answers to them. We call them the national questions, many of them, right? Now, if a political party is coming on board and say, look, we are mainstreaming this as an agenda, right? And we are able to, and we are driving this conversation and taking it headlong and pushing it forward and seeking opportunity that we have majority in both chambers of the National Assembly to push this through. I think without prejudice to whatever experience Nigerians have had with this kind of initiatives in the past, I think they should give us the benefit of the doubt and actually commend our party for taking these issues headlong. For me, I believe that a constitution is not made for the current situations in the country. It's made for all time. And I believe that even as a country, our nation, how old are we? We are still a very young country. So we'll continue to find our essence. We'll continue to find workable solutions on what makes us a country where no man is oppressed, as it were, where everyone believes he is being fairly treated and justly treated. So what we are doing is that we are leading this charge as a political party. So I think those who believe, who take a cynical interpretation of this exercise will be justified if you look at what has happened in the past when this just ends as report that people just collect and dump somewhere, right? But we intend to go beyond this, and that is why the submission of this report was not just report. It also includes an implementation framework. All the relevant legislation that require amendment have been done. All the bills, new bills that need to be drafted pursuant to the recommendations that have been made have been done. Now, the stage we are in is to get the most critical institution on this exercise, which is the National Assembly, to begin to drive it forward. Of course, that requires a lot of negotiation. That's what politics is about at that level. But I think we are demonstrating that we are committed to this because it's at the very heart of what our party stands for.
I'm sure that you understand why there is so much skepticism about the implementation of these recommendations.
Sure.
You recall that in 2014, former President Goodluck Jonathan set up the national conference. A few months to the next election, which took place in 2015, and the meaning that was read into it at that time was that it was meant to buy time and to keep the politicians talking while they oiled the wheel of their political process to get re-elected. Here we are again, with the APC coming up with a recommendation on true federalism, what many people will call restructuring. Just about
No,
a
this
year
is different. No, this is different. It is different in the sense that this is the first time that a political party is taking ownership of the process. It is the first time that a political party is saying we promised this in our manifesto and we're actually driving it.
Of course, the APC did not take part in the 2014
You understand
national
that?
conference.
So it is the first time that a political party is going around the country and getting the views of Nigerians, not just bringing people into a room in Abuja, with due respect to all the exercise that have gone before, which we have also brought on board in our consideration here. So for me, I think it's also the first time that we are going beyond just submitting report to actually drafting legislations that will move the process forward. So like I said initially, those who believe that this is another political gimmick will be justified given the experience we've had. But what I'm saying is that we cannot, yes, we are skeptical, yes, we think APC is just playing game, but what options do we have other than to continue to deal with these issues and to continue to push it and to continue to push APC to deliver on the promise it has made to Nigerians? We are taking the lead. So I think the cynical approach is not going to help us, regardless of the experience we've had in the past. The important thing is for us to embrace this process. We are inviting the political parties, all the political parties, to be part of this, because we believe it's about our country.
All right. Honorable Abubakar, you are a lawmaker in the House of Representatives. So ultimately, some of these draft legislations that he's talking about will come to the National Assembly for action. But first, having seen the recommendations of that committee, are you satisfied? Do you think that they are far-reaching enough to assuage the feelings of those who have been clamoring for years for a restructuring of Nigeria?
Yeah, thank you very much. I must first of all acknowledge, I would say, the boldness and the foresight of APC for even daring to put a topical issue like restructuring or, something that's topical in a mandate to start with. And they did not just stop at that. They decided to drive that commitment through the process they've done and that committee. We are all living witnesses to how very robust the discussions were in the past year on issues of restructuring. And like my brother here said, it even gave rise to a lot of different insinuations and definitions, on the issues of restructuring. So the job they did as a party is detailed. If you look at the report, they looked at the core issues, and that report addresses the core components that have been, the concerns of the average Nigerian. The issues of state creation and mergers of states were properly addressed. The issues of delegation principle, the issues of fiscal federation, the issues of devolution of power, and the issues that borders around independent candidature. But the most important, in my opinion, that addresses restructuring is the issue of the devolution of power in matters of the exclusive and concurrent list. And if you look at that, everybody that has agitated for restructuring, that has even dared to misinterpret or misdefine restructuring, everything is anchored on the things that they highlighted in the devolution of powers. Out of the 68 items, they narrowed down on 10 that are very topical. They talk about state police issues that has been a strong debate and a recurrent debate over the years. They talked about resource control in some ways, and they were even able to create borderlines. They took a midway position based on the feedback they got from the people. They are only talking on onshore resources to be controlled by the state, either in mines and in hydrocarbon, which is oil and gas. They talked about offshore being in the exclusivity of the federal government. They talked about prisons. Most of the things that were addressed, we know the problem of prisons in this country. We know that we don't have enough prisons. We know that the federal government is struggling to even keep up with the maintenance and running of our prisons. So they talked about states also having prisons. Some states are already building prisons for the federal government. That's the truth.
Of course, you know that some of the arguments about the powers of the federal government being too overwhelming and the responsibility they carry too much load and all of that is anchored on these exclusive legislative lists.
Exactly.
68 items on that list. And the committee is recommending that only 10 of those 68 be ceded to the other federating units, that's the state, to operate on and all of that. Do you think that goes far enough? Shouldn't more of those items on the exclusive list to actually go to the states?
Okay. Beyond the numbers, 10 out of 68, I think we should look at what are they talking about in the exclusive list that they're saying that it should be concurrent. They are talking about state policing, they're talking about prisons, they're talking about food and drugs, they're talking about public holidays, they're talking about fingerprinting, registration of business names. They're talking about mines. They're talking about some level of resource control. Labor. Railways. You see, in my opinion, these are the things, you see, in any change process that the APC champions, this is a further reflection of the fact that, you see, change must be modulated. If APC has come as a party and recommended that all the 68 items or 50% they have narrowed down to priorities that will galvanize the economy and will give the states the confidence of resource control. We can't take away one fact. The state is closest to the people. And there is a need for more resources to go to the states so that they can better take up the challenge of addressing the needs of the people and giving back the dividends of democracy to the people. In a nutshell, what I'm saying is that the 10 items that have been recommended, right, are very critical in galvanizing the dividends of democracy to the Nigerian, to the average Nigerian.
Malam Abdullahi, one very critical aspect of this recommendation is this devolution of powers and responsibilities to the states that we're talking about. Is it accompanied by devolution of resources, looking at the current revenue allocation formula and all of that? Will that be part of this? Because if you are giving the states more responsibilities, you also should accompany it with more resources for them to execute.
I mean, definitely. I mean, a concomitant of devolution is fiscal federalism and all that. So normally resources will follow responsibilities. So as you move some of these responsibilities to the states, then the relevant resources will also follow the responsibilities that are going to the states. So what you find is that you cannot talk of devolution of power without talking of fiscal federalism. So for me, I think it's about killing many stones with one,
killing many birds with one stone.
Killing many birds with one stone. Because take the issue of state police. In any case, most of the police commands and establishments across the country are largely or significantly funded by the state governments, without the corresponding authority to manage the police resources or the police resources in the states. You know, so when anything happens in a state and the governor of the state and the chief security officer of the state has the primary responsibility to maintain law and order. But if he gives a directive to the commissioner of police, he can choose to obey or not to obey. So what our committee is saying is that we have state assemblies that make laws for the states. We should also have the state police that will be responsible for enforcing those laws that have been made by the state House of Assembly. Thank you. Okay. So you will still have the federal police enforcing federal laws, but you need to have state police that will enforce state laws. So the argument you hear is that, oh, but the state governors can turn the state police into personal militia, you know, to fight their political opponents.
Isn't that fear real?
I mean, it's real, but you see, my response to that, or our response to that as we consider all this is that, okay, we say that we have the status quo, which is where we are now. I don't see many people who will agree that where we are now is where we should be, or they are satisfied with the way the police is currently organized. Even the police himself is not working for them. Now, what is the alternative? We say, okay, let's have state police that will be broken into smaller components and be managed at the state level. And they say, oh no, state governors will turn them into private militias. So, okay, so what is the option? No one has been able to come up with an alternative. So the choice is between keeping what we have now or going the way of state police.
That is the option. The option is keeping what we have.
What we have now. No, that's what I'm saying. But what we have now, is it working for anybody? It's not working. So what's the point in keeping what we have if we all agree that it is not working for us? So if there are fears that there will be abuses by state governors, let us invest our energy and intellect. This country is so blessed with enormously intelligent people that can sit around the table and work out the relevant safety valve that will ensure that, like I said earlier this morning, even the most criminally minded governor will not be able to abuse the use of state police. If we think hard enough, we can find solution. But we must not allow ourselves to be held hostage by fear. That is one side of it. The second side of it is, look, we are looking at what exists now. In another 50 years, what kind of country will we have? In another 100 years, what kind of country will we have? So when you make this kind of proposals, when you make constitution, you are not making it for the current situation. You are making it for all time, right? So we must not, because of the predilections of current political tendencies, to now hold ourselves hostage and not move forward. The current police system in Nigeria is not working.
Okay. Well, like I said earlier on, the recommendations of the committee has received mixed reactions from across board. Politicians and non-politicians alike have been talking. One of those who's been talking is the Bayelsa State Governor, Serake Dixon, who wants the proposal to be subjected to a more inclusive consultative process to add value to the process and for quick implementation before the 2019 elections. That's another question we'll be looking at when we return from taking this report on the Bayelsa State Governor, Serake Dixon.
On Thursday, June 29, 2017, the matter of restructuring Nigeria was tabled at the meeting of the leadership of the ruling All Progressives Congress APC and state governors under the party's platform. At the end of the meeting, which held at the Imo State Governor's Lodge in Asokoro, Abuja, a committee was set up to look into the many calls for restructuring Nigeria. The committee, led by Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai, took the matter to various states across the Federation, seeking to know what the people really wanted.
And we're here to listen to Nigeria. It's not going to be what APC as a party, what we think. It is about the people. It is about Nigeria. It is going.
After 4 months of its findings, the committee submitted its recommendations to the leadership of the party on Thursday, January 25, 2018, for further deliberations. The committee articulated 13 issues out of the 24 issues brought before it for deliberations from the various opinions expressed by Nigerians, and recommended that power be devolved to states. It also recommended that 10 items should be moved from the exclusive legislative list to the concurrent list. Some of the items include police and prisons, registration of business names, labor, oil field, and geographical survey, among others. It gave a nod to state creation and merger of states, independent candidacy, and rejected local government autonomy. On resource control, the committee recommended that mining, minerals, and oil should go to the states. It also proposed the amendment of the Petroleum Act, the Land Use Act, Nigeria Minerals and Mining Act, and the Petroleum Profit Tax Act 2007. These recommendations have, however, been greeted with divergent views. Bayelsa State Governor Seriake Dixon says it is a welcome development that will address the issue of agitation in the oil-rich Niger Delta region.
This is one of the most fundamental proposals for reform, constitutional reform, dealing with the issues of restructuring, and led by personalities from parts of this country other than parts of this country that are always talking about restructuring. This is very refreshing. And for me, when I see what is right, I commend it.
Governor Dixon, who has been at the forefront of calls for restructuring Nigeria, wants the recommendations implemented before 2019 general elections.
I take these issues very seriously, and I've been at the forefront of advocating, making a case for restructuring. And so I thought I should start by commending and appreciating them. So that multi-party committee needs to come on stream so that we can work out the final details and in no distant time present appropriate bills to the National Assembly and jointly engage our members in the National Assembly to facilitate these bills becoming laws, and then we get the president to sign off.
The Bayelsa State Governor believes that engaging various key players from other political parties would add value to the process, adding that it will help the APC committee to work out the final details of the issues involved.
Bayelsa State Governor Seriake Dixon throwing his weight behind that report, but of course, Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike has faulted that report. He told a gathering of South-South leaders in Port Harcourt over the weekend that the timing of the report, close to the 2019 elections, shows that it has political undertones designed to mislead, hoodwink, and deceive Nigerians. That's the view of the Rivers State Governor. What's the view of the Afenifere Sociocultural Organization, a Yoruba sociocultural organization? Of course, some time ago, we had the spokesperson of the group here in the studio to speak on this matter. And I'm talking of none other than Yika or Dumakin, who is the spokesperson of Afenifere. He's on the line with us now from Lagos. Mr. Dumakin, good afternoon. What is your immediate reaction to the recommendations of the APC Committee on True Federalism?
Well, the first thing to say is that when you look at most of their recommendations, they are just cut and paste from 2014 National Conference reports. And we need not have gone through these rules. When they came to power, they should have just taken that report and pick and choose what they want to implement there, and we should have done it 3 years down the line.
So you admit that the committee's report has some merit?
It has some merit, but like I said, they are just cut and the next time that we are going through committees, president will study it, then we'll get to election, say, when we come back for second time or what? If they are serious about this project, a bill should go to the assembly now for the presidency with this report and ask that assembly to revisit what they have done in terms of constitutional review and let it part of it.
As we understand now, that report came with an implementation framework, which includes some of these things we are talking about.
Hello?
Yes, can you hear me?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, Mr. Adumakin. Please go ahead.
Hello?
Well, go ahead. We can hear you.
Hello?
Yes, Mr. Adumakin, please go ahead. We can hear you.
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
I said we have not been told that the report contains an implementation framework which includes some of these things that you are talking about.
Well, we have 11 months or years in next elections now at this point. For those who said that for 3 years, they said they didn't understand what we are talking about. Now they set up their own report. They finished the assignment 6th of October. Now they are bringing this report at this stage. I know at this stage now, this is just the party talking. The presidency has not bought into this report yet. The party cannot send a bill to that assembly. The president actually has to do it. So, until we see concrete steps in place towards the president of the day, this is not enough for us.
Okay, what would be your response to the suggestion by the Bayelsa State Governor, for instance, that there should be a more inclusive process, a multi-party process to drive this process forward? Well, I think we have lost Yinka Odumakin there. Hopefully we should get him back on the line very soon. But gentlemen, you heard him. Yeah. He says this is cut and paste. And
in my opinion, even the committee in presenting their report, they made it very clear that they put into consideration the reports of the 2 constitutional conferences that we've done, as well as fresh input from Nigerians across party divides in all the states they went to. Definitely, it is just appropriate to tap into work that people have done and that work that the federal government has committed resources to. So it is now making it more robust. It is not exactly cut and paste. For instance, the recommendation of the 2014 did not talk about the midway situation between the onshore and the offshore. So, but I'm saying it was part of what they considered. And with other fresh input, it is natural. There must be materials for any new statistical work or research that you want to do to generate.
Malam Abdullahi, he expressed a concern. That concern, many people have also expressed, that there might possibly be a disconnect between the party and the presidency. Because in the past, we have seen a very lukewarm attitude by the presidency to the whole issue of restructuring. And here we are having the party that has produced the president making far-reaching recommendations.
You see, let me quickly respond to some of these comments, that, if you don't mind, that is. I want to thank Governor Bayelsa Sereki Diski for being magnanimous and for being open-minded and understanding what this is all about. And I wish his colleague in Rivers State can also see that the historic agitation of his people is finally being addressed by a political party. Yeah. And if the government, if the party that he belongs to has shown the same dedication, the same commitment, all these issues would have been solved by now. They won't be something we're just still grappling with. So I think he's not demonstrating an understanding, a sufficient understanding of the innate desire of his people in respect to some of these issues. Otherwise, he wouldn't have dismissed it so casually and say that, oh, yes, it could be that we are playing politics, but is there merit in it? Are there issues here that are worth engaging in the interest of the people? You know, so for me, that's having said that. And the idea of whether it's a cut and paste, no, I don't think anybody has a proprietary right over this thing. We don't need to be fighting over copyright. The important thing is that if you recommend A in the CONFAB 2014 report, and this committee is coming back and saying, look, we've gone around the country and we have corroborated your position, we are also recommending A just like you did, they should be happy instead, right? Because these are the same people that have been complaining that they have been used and dumped, and nobody is paying attention to the work that they have done. So if we are picking it up, I actually think they should be happy that some people are actually driving this initiative. You know, for us, it is good that this conversation is happening, because what it tells us is that Nigerians really expect something key to come out of this process.
Is the APC open to the suggestion by the Bayelsa State Governor that there should be a more inclusive process? You should bring in the other political parties now to interrogate this report and make more input, add value to it for a quicker resolution of some.
Absolutely. I mean, I said it earlier, even before you played it back. I said it earlier that we are open to building a multi-party coalition on this. The important thing is that the conversation, the multi-party coalition that we are talking about, has to be anchored on the philosophy of our manifesto, which is what? To improve governance and to bring governance as close to the people as possible, which is to strengthen federalism.
Okay, address the issue of the disconnect, the perceived disconnect between the party and the presidency, given the very lukewarm attitude in the past of the presidency, and especially the president, to the whole question of restructuring.
Well, lukewarm attitude is probably your interpretation. It's not a statement of fact, right? I'm not saying it's wrong or right, but that's your interpretation.
No, he has said so several times.
He has not said, I have lukewarm attitude.
No, he hasn't said, no, but that's the general interpretation.
That's your interpretation
of
what happened. So, but what I'm saying is that, look, that is why political parties exist. Political parties exist as the custodian of the philosophy of a political party, of the ground norms, of the principles that drives a political party. And that is why a government is a derivative of that ground norm, right? So those who are the custodians of the party philosophy will have responsibility to continue to hold their elected and appointed officers to ensure that they don't lose focus of the philosophy of the party. To continue to ensure
that's the idea. So but we have seen in Nigeria where political parties come into power, whether as governor, as local government, as president, and abandon their political party.
I can assure you, sorry, Honorable, I can tell you that some of these people who assume that the president is not interested cannot tell you that he has told them that he's not interested, right, in this instance. And I can tell you that since this report was submitted, whether it's a report that the feedback we got from the chairman of our committee, the feedback that we got from the chairman of the party, neither of them has suggested that the president is not interested. In fact, they individually reported that the president is excited and is enthusiastic about this. And all of us who have labored for this,
refreshing.
We are very happy. It's quite refreshing.
That's very refreshing.
So I'm saying that we have become experts in reading body languages and saying that this is what, you know.
Honorable, before you come in, you chip in. Let me add this to what you're going to chip in. Because now he says the implementation process, I mean, the report came with an implementation template. Because a lot of this will be pushed to the National Assembly to deal with. Here is an assembly that had, just in the immediate past, rejected some of these recommendations when they were tabled as amendments to the Constitution. What is the guarantee this time around that they will look at these issues much more favorably than they did in the past?
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, I want to, adopt the position of the Honorable Bolaji Abdullahi, my brother. The issue of the support of the president or not in this matter is not what we should overflog. In my own opinion, the president is a member of APC, and the activities of APC and whatever the party does and comes out with a recommendation, of course, as a loyal member of the party, is binding on the president as far as party issues are concerned. Having said that, yes, this is actually a legislative action that would translate whatever it is, the recommendations of the party or committee to law. And it is after it even goes through the relevant amendment and passage at the floor of the National Assembly that it now becomes something that the president will have to assent. And if it is on constitutional issues, you know, that is when it really becomes law. So it is true that we had an opportunity some time back on issues of constitution where we voted on some of these issues. For instance, the issue of the independent candidacy is already adopted. You understand? There are some other issues that are adopted. Yes, I also acknowledge the fact that there are some other issues that did not sail through. But what the party is trying to do now, trying to make the discussion more robust, making it go across party lines, you know, by the time they are able to achieve that in good time, and by the time they are, you know, networking with both party members in the National Assembly and by extension opposition in the National Assembly, to see this as a Nigerian agenda rather than what we are going to play politics with.
Yes, rather than the regional or
either
ethnic
regional or ethnic
or religious agenda that we saw pushed the last time.
Yes. So
because
by the time we do all that, you see, everywhere in the world, the negotiations, the back end, we have to happen. Recently, we saw a situation of stalemate in the government in the United States. These were because they had issues that they had divided opinion about. So naturally, as humans and as people representing different constituencies, there will be conflict of opinions. But at the end of the day, when we do our engagement properly, and we will be able to resolve and make very concrete decisions on some of these things. But one thing is apparent, and that is why, like Bolaji said, whoever says it's a cut and paste should be saying that, okay, it is another affirmation of a prior opinion. Because this time, rather than in Abuja, they visited all the 36 states of the Federation and engaged people, even across party lines. They did not say people that entered those engagements, they didn't have to flash their APC cards. It was open to everybody. So it is also a reflection of even people who belong to other political parties. We know the way political platforms operate. Other people who had contrary opinion or who belong to another party, if you don't restrict them and you don't have to show your ID, they go there to register their own contrary opinion sometimes.
All right, thank you very much.
So it's a reflection of the Nigerian thought.
Well, thank you. I guess we're going to have to leave it at that for now. This is an ongoing discussion. There are very many other issues that are thrown up by this recommendation that we need to take a further look at. For instance, the onshore, offshore issue. How is it related to the 2001 Supreme Court decision on onshore, offshore? And of course, the committee also recommended, for instance, that local governments should be expunged from the Constitution as a tier of government. What are people in the local government sector, stakeholders in that sector, think of that recommendation, and many more issues. State police, we have only scratched the surface, as it were. We'll be looking at all of that in greater detail in subsequent programs. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Malam Balaji Abdullahi is a spokesperson, the National Publicity Secretary of the All Progressives Congress, APC. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And Dr. Amuda Kanike Abubakar is a member of the House of Representatives. Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure being there. Thank you.
Well, that's our program for this Monday. Join us again on Tuesday when we'll bring you a fresh edition of People, Politics, and Power. I am Imoni Amarere. Bye for now.